All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome in to another Star Wars Sunday. This is our second Sunday for Star Wars. I just repeated myself. Welcome in, everybody. And we're going to have a great time today. Good or bad, we're going to have a good time talking about Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. And, of course, as always, I want to say hello to those who are joining me on today's live stream. Of course, I have my counterpart in the Star Wars trilogy. I'm going to say trilogy for now, Dan. Dan from DizneyDan is with us. Dan, say hi to everybody.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? Are we ready for a complete rant-a-thon? I think we are.
I hope not. Well, we probably will be for the most part. But also joining us, our special guest this week, we're very, very lucky and happy to have him, is Dave from Brandy and Dave. Dave, welcome.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for having me on. I am ready to listen and partake in said rant-a-thon.
Yeah, I guess to a point, that's probably what this will be about. I hope not. I tried to be Mr. Positive for this one and try to find as much as I could to offset some of the ranting that I'm sure all of us will do, but it was difficult.
Yeah.
But we will definitely delve into the entire movie. We'll talk about characters. We'll talk about plot. We'll talk about cinematography. Everything about the movie. We're going to get into it all. And it's going to be fantastic. But before we do that, let's say hi to some people in the chat from what I'm seeing so far. And if you see me looking off to the side, folks, it's just because I'm looking at my other screen. We have Steve's in here, Noah, Juan, Rodriguez, Donna Jaworski, welcome in. We also have Dougie from Walter Graham's, Chris, Disney World Adventures, Dee and Miguel from A Disney Life for Me. We have tons of people in here, so I appreciate everybody who's in here. And we're going to get started. So a couple things just to note real fast, talking about Star Wars Attack of the Clones. And you guys, please help me with this if I missed anything. But the movie, of course, debuted 2002. And on Rotten Tomatoes, it actually got a 65. Can you believe that? It did.
Because we could trust those, can't we?
No, but I was surprised. I was surprised it was as high as it was. But the audience gave it a 56. So that really surprised me that it was as high as it was. And when I looked at it, I looked at the cost to make this movie. It was $120 million to make Attack of the Clones, but it made $649 million worldwide during its entire run. So they definitely made their money.
Yeah, definitely made it back, didn't they?
It really did. And what's just kind of set the synopsis real fast, and then we'll get right into it. This movie is set 10 years after the events of Phantom Menace, for those who don't know. And I guess that kind of explains some of the characters that we're going to get into and why there's such a change in probably the biggest character in the entire arc. But Dan, where do we want to go first, talking about Attack of the Clones?
Firstly, I just want to say hello to everybody. It's good to have you guys back here, and me and Walt have really enjoyed. We've really enjoyed Phantom Menace, and I thought, this is going to be a lot of fun. Corey Meets World is here. Welcome in, buddy. Good to see you. And I've made some notes, and I've put right on top of the page, don't hate on it. Don't hate on it because I like it, but guys, this movie is not just a bad Star Wars movie. It's a bad movie. And let's just set the scene, right? This movie was released in 2002, right?
Yes, correct.
So we've had a couple of years since Phantom Menace, and fans were like, okay, George Lucas slipped, he kind of slipped a little bit with Phantom Menace. Maybe he could redeem himself. Maybe he's changed some things about, Attack of the Clones that, he might fix with all the fan feedback from Phantom Menace. And he did make one big change, and that he limited Jar Jar to 2 scenes in the movie, which is great. But I think we've got to really start right at the beginning with the assassination scene with Padme and the decoy.
Zam Weasel.
Yeah, well, no, even before that, when the ship exploded. Right?
Oh, right.
Before then. And you can immediately tell that 10 years hasn't gone by because you have Padme, who looks the same, right? You have her bodyguard. You know Captain Typo, whatever Typo. I don't know what it is. He looks exactly the same, and just it brings me on to the first scene after that, and it was Padme and Mace Windu talking to each other about this was an attack by Count Dooku, this mysterious person we know as Count Dooku, and Mace Windu says, Count Dooku wouldn't do that. He was once a Jedi. He wouldn't be in his nature. So that tells us like he was once a Jedi, right? But now that he's not a Jedi, surely his ideals have changed because he's now not a Jedi anymore. And that would be in his nature to assassinate Padme. So even right from the beginning, I was like, right, this is not going to go anywhere. This is it's going to be a rough ride from there on. So that's my opening statement about the opening remarks. You'll be plenty more words.
Opening remarks, Dave?
What? that was so much more vanilla than I expected to come out of Dan's mouth. Well, the only way that we know that time has passed is because Obi-Wan has grown hair. It's now to his shoulders. Might take 10 years to get there. I don't know.
He's gone for a mullet themed. I think.
He's definitely attempting to join. I don't know, the remake of Bush or some other late 1990s band, whatever. But it's interesting to bring up. It's like, yo, so he was a Jedi. He's not anymore. Can you do that? Can you retire? What happens when you retire from being a Jedi? Like, you just go away? Like what? But they still know about him. It's weird. And it highlights again, Dan, and I'm sure this is going to be a theme throughout, the fantastically written dialogue throughout this entire movie.
Right. And that's the issue for me, is talking about one of the things that doesn't work with this movie is screenplay. Okay, there's so many different holes that we have throughout the screenplay, and Dan, you touched on one of the ones right there, talking about that's a contradiction of that statement from Mace Windu. Well, he's a Jedi; he wouldn't do that. Well, he was a Jedi, but you're right; he's no longer. So he's got a different way of thinking now. So of course he would do that. That's exactly what he would do. It's true. It's the plot holes and the dialogue holes that we have in this movie throughout. Not just the cheesiness of some of the lines that they have, but the plot holes as well. I agree 100%.
What really annoyed me about this line said by Mace Windu is the fact it's from Mace Windu, the second most powerful Jedi in the Jedi Council.
Right.
And he's just come out, the first pretty much big line of dialogue, is an idiot. Like, he's literally just said something really stupid. Right. And he's meant to be the second most powerful Jedi apart from Yoda.
Right.
And it just like already I'm like, why are they already saying some I know George Lucas's dialogue is beyond awful. but you don't put someone of an importance, a secondary importance character. You know, he's not a main character, he's a secondary character. He's a side character, but he has an important role, especially in this film, leading to where Mace Windu goes in this film. You know, just saying something like that has just made him just seem kind of dumb.
Yeah, and let me just say this about dialogue, and this is the issue for me. One of the biggest issues of the entire movie for me, when it comes to dialogue. Where's the memorable dialogue? Where's the colorful, energetic, witty remarks that might become Star Wars lore? You know, we have in the old movies, you have, hey, I love you, I know, or I have a bad feeling about this, or, you know, you name it, you know, never tell me the odds. It's not witty. It's not energetic. It's not colorful. They sound very bland, almost zombie-like in the way they talk.
Were you explaining last month that the dialogue is wooden? There's no, you know, there's no sense of like, my people need help. You know, it's like, there's no sense of urgency to the dialogue. Like, there's no feeling, and and Steve said it just right here. He said the script seems to constantly jump around.
Yes.
And trust me, there are memorable lines in this film, but for all the wrong reasons.
Yes, I agree.
Which we'll get to.
Hey, Rob, welcome in. Just want to say hi to Rob real fast. Michelle's in here. Stacy Rogers is in here. A few other people. It's Joey's World's in here. Just want to say hi to a few people. Dave, what do you think? Talking about dialogue to kind of expand on that.
So there's two parts to to every piece of dialogue that goes out there. There's the writer, and then there's the person that delivers it. And obviously, we're gonna get into Hayden Christensen. Just in general, but Natalie Portman didn't do herself any favors. There's only Sam Jackson, who wanted to get these snakes off this plane, and I'm saying it PG, right? He has some of the most memorable lines in cinema history, and none of them come from either of the Star Wars movies that he is in, except for the bad ones. It's really bad when you go to the diner scene and the CGI big hulking chef that somehow knows about this random planet that's outside of the Outer Rim has some of the most authentic dialogue in the entire movie.
Yeah. But I'm just going to bring up CGI. And I think we'll talk about this as we progress through the film. But I think what George Lucas was always an innovator, right? Whenever he came to the originals, he wanted to use a lot of puppetry for things like Yoda. He wanted to create amazing sets. But since CGI came about, he's loved it. He's loved CGI. And this really was so CGI heavy, this film, that, we'll get into the details when we get to them. But there was so much green screen that was used. Green screen, blue screen, computer-generated figures, computer-generated actors. There was so much there that it just didn't work. What I think George Lucas was trying to, portray in this movie in particular was a romance story between Anakin and Padme.
Too much. That's the problem, and we'll get to that too, because you touched on a whole nother subject I want to get into. But you were talking about CGI? Yeah,
just with the whole CGI, and I think what George Lucas was going for was he wanted things to look good. But in doing that, it was the complete opposite. Right. I think Dougie says, I think this time you can't blame the actors for their delivery. As a great man once said, George, you can type this expletive
deleted.
Expletive deleted, but you sure can't say it.
Right.
Look, I might say about the actors in a minute because I want to bring on Hayden Christensen to the table.
Well, I do want to touch on CGI, and we'll stay with that. Dave, go ahead. I have my own take.
We'll come back to CGI. I got one last thing, but what you threw out there, I love you. I know. Never tell me the odds. Those aren't well-written lines. They were just performed well.
That's fine.
It's simplistic. It's what George Lucas does, and okay. Yeah. But you can't. If Hayden Christensen, exactly. Well, but if and it was also delivered colorfully. If Hayden Christensen had the line "Never tell me the odds," it would not be remembered like it was when Harrison Ford said it.
Oh, sure. And I think that's true. You get that with anything. I'll put it to you this way. You can say the line that James Earl Jones says when he says, talking about to Luke Skywalker, he says, Obi-Wan has taught you well, but you're not a Jedi yet.
Right.
That line, anybody else could say, it's a great line, but only he's going to deliver it the way it was delivered. So I totally agree. It's not that I'm disagreeing. I agree. Right. But the line means something too.
There's a line that is mentioned in every single Star Wars film, and it's I got a bad feeling about this, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the two ones that I picture instantly, right, is Han Solo saying, "I've got a bad feeling about this," and Anakin in Episode 3, which whatever. But we're discussing, delivery, okay?
Right.
And it does depend on the actor. It does depend on the delivery.
Mm-hmm.
And you just can't. I feel something with someone like Hayden Christensen. He just was not good at delivering lines.
No, not
He's
at all.
not a good actor.
No, I agree. But but is there a line in Attack of the Clones that could have been delivered better by anybody? Could you have put Harrison Ford in one of these lines and said, "Oh, that line would have been better now if he had said it"? I don't know. It's so bad.
Yeah, I could think of one. We'll get onto it. But there's Boba Fett in this film, but we'll get there.
Okay. Well, I want to touch on CGI, Dave, and I want your opinion too.
Mm-hmm.
For me, this is what I say about CGI. I agree 100%, Dan. Too much. Way too much. I like practical sets. I like real sets, personally. For me, I know the importance of a green screen and what they bring to the experience, but real sets help to establish authenticity. For me, I want to be able to see something where I almost believe it's a real place, that you could go to it because it's real sets. A la, not to bring up Lord of the Rings, but most of those sets were real sets, and it looked like a real place you could go. With these CGI sets in Attack of the Clones, you knew it wasn't real. It didn't even look real. It looked like something that was, they were just walking behind a green screen, and that was too bad.
Yeah, there was too much, and we'll bring on green screen sets and CGI things later on, but just the start of it just was it's too much, way too much.
No.
Yeah, I agree. Where do you want to go next, Dan? We're going to go to the.
Well, I want to bring in Hayden Christensen because I think one of the biggest problems, especially in episodes 2 and 3, was the casting choice of this kid. George Lucas must have seen this Goosebumps episode with him and a killing doll, because that's where you can find him originally. I did some research. He was in one of the Goosebumps episode, and he must have been like, "Oh, he could play my Anakin. He's perfect. The way he delivers that line to a dummy is brilliant." And he was terrible in the Goosebumps episode as well. And just the way even if he doesn't say a line, right? If he has no lines to say, he has the creepiest face. It feels like every time he talks to Padme or looks at Padme, I feel like he's going to do something really bad to her. I'm not even kidding. Like he's like, "Sorry, my lady," and he gives like the eyes to the camera, and I'm like, what is he like? This is just wrong. And Padme doesn't look the same, right? Well, no, Padme does look the same, and we now need to believe that this little Jake Lloyd character that we saw in episode 1 grew up to be this 6'2", skinny. Like, it just didn't work. He just was the wrong part, wrong casting choice. He was just awful at acting, and all he did throughout the movie was complain. He was a whiny brat. That's what he was. He was terrible.
Dave, what do you think of Hayden Christensen being cast in this role?
I have my own little Hayden Christensen sitting here whining about something. I apologize.
At least I can probably act better than him.
He can, and he has something like real to whine about. Dude, not just whiny, he was creepy, like the entire thing, right? Like I wrote out my flow chart for the love scene, and I don't want to get in there, but it's like just to start, it's like you're still a little boy, and then it's like next step, creepy stare. It's like, are you kidding me? Like that's where this is going. It was all over. It was. You hate to put it all on him, right? But at the same token, he was just a bad choice, right? Like Milk was a bad choice in Anchorman. Hayden Christensen was a bad choice in this movie.
Well, it's funny you say that because it's true. Because if you look at some of the other casting that they did, Samuel L. Jackson as Mace Windu, I have no problem with that. Christopher Lee as Count Dooku, no problem with that. Natalie Portman as Padme, I have no problem with that. I think she's a great actress. But this role here, he got it wrong in episode 1 and episode 2.
Yeah. But he just I feel like everything he says, like, Obi-Wan doesn't let me do this. Obi-Wan doesn't let me do that.
Right.
And I'm just like, he's meant to be learning from Obi-Wan. but not being complaining. He's, the Jedi was all about not to go into that negative zone because that leads to the dark side, right? But he's saying, like, I'm ready to take the trial. Isn't that arrogance? Arrogance leads to jealousy. Jealousy leads to hate. I guess kind of.
But that's what they want, because that's ultimately where he goes.
But were you thinking that when you watched it?
No, I'm just thinking he's being annoying. Because
he's being annoying.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's all about how it's acted.
If you had a better actor, and you'd be like, you could have some sort of emotion behind it. Like, I want to take the trial. I want to be a Jedi Master. Instead of just like, I'm ready to take the trial. Like, it's just like, it gives the creepy face at the end. I'm like, how am I meant to take this guy seriously?
Right.
I agree. It's all about presentation. You're right. But I mean,
well, and what was it written to be more, more with him being more self-serving and disobedient as opposed to whiny, and just the presentation and the actual delivery of those lines came off as whiny as opposed to I'm gonna do my own thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's just I take it as him being whiny. I mean, I understand where they were going with it. I mean, it makes sense. He's going against everything, and he's being arrogant, and he's being selfish and things like that because we know the road he's going to go down. So we understand that that's part of the plot points of where we need to get. But his presentation on how he did it, you're right. I mean, for me, it didn't come off very well.
Steve, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Steve said, so other actors that were considered for the role were Leonardo DiCaprio, Paul Walker, and Ryan Felipe. All three great actors, right? Paul Walker would have been a great Anakin. I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio maybe he's a little bit too old for the role. But Hayden Christensen is just, maybe he was the right age, but that might be because he hadn't had a lot of acting ability, right? He hasn't been in a lot of things. He's been in Goosebumps. He's been in some indie films. And I think George Lucas was really, really wrong with this choice. Just really bad.
And I think what he tried to do was he tried to take what he did with Mark Hamill, because before Star Wars, what had Mark Hamill done?
Yeah.
Okay. And Harrison Ford, he had done, he did American Graffiti, but he wasn't this huge, well-known actor. I mean, he had been doing like carpentry work when he went in for the role, when he tested for the role. Now, Carrie Fisher had done other roles as well. I think she was in Blues Brothers and stuff like that, I think that might have been after. But, I mean, even those people,
was after.
Most of them were new to this experience. Mark Hamill had done nothing.
Even today, you got Daisy Ridley. Daisy Ridley had done really nothing since she became Rey in Star Wars.
So yeah, I mean, I agree. I just think he just didn't do a good job. I mean, it's just that simple. And there's plenty of people out there that have done roles that weren't good in those roles. He's not the first. He won't be the last.
Won't be the last.
It's just unfortunate that it was in the most iconic role that we needed him to nail.
Yeah.
It's Darth Vader for crying out loud, and he doesn't nail it.
Well, it's not like Portman nails it either. She got better after these movies. I mean, we're looking at this from what, 16, 17 years later, right? And she's done a lot of good work since then. And we may be colored differently looking back, right? Rose-colored glasses, whatever.
She did do stuff beforehand that was excellent too. Remember The Professional?
Yeah,
fantastic in that role.
Yeah.
She was like 12. I mean, I just think part of it is acting and part of it is script of what you get. There's only so much you can do with script.
Yeah, and we'll get into some of the romantic dialogue, I'm assuming, later.
But I agree, Dave. She probably could have put a little bit of a better effort into what she
just
did.
A touch.
Maybe she knew what she was getting herself into, and she was like, "Oh well." Who knows?
Well, and who knows? I mean, the fact that the dialogue was written without a single contraction in it, like, we are going to go over to there. It's like,
I feel like in both episode 2 and 3 that, because obviously this is like a buddy cop thing between Anakin and Obi-Wan, I feel like Ewan McGregor really carried Hayden Christensen.
I agree.
Hayden Christensen couldn't do it on his own. Even with Natalie Portman, who, granted, had been in some great films beforehand, it felt like everyone was carrying him. And whenever he was on his own or doing something sort of an important role or an important scene, he couldn't cope on his own. And Ewan McGregor really had to get that out of him, and you could see it. You could really see it even in the romance. Natalie Portman was trying to get it out of Hayden Christensen, and it just
no chemistry.
There was no chemistry.
None. Between the two of them, they had absolutely zero chemistry at all. Just never felt it.
And look, it doesn't really help when, Anakin goes, I've been thinking about her ever since she left, or, I see her in my dreams. I can't stop thinking about Padme. Stop staring. It scares me. All these things are really creepy.
Oh, yeah, the lines are basic, and to be honest with you, in a lot of ways, just cliche. And they just don't come across very well.
I don't know. It's we haven't even got into really anything big yet, but just the casting, is just is.
Yep, I agree. Well, let's get into the movie. Let's kind of start from the beginning, and Dan, I'll let you do the outline for that part. You're really good with that. I want to go. Let's start from the movie and kind of work our way through it.
I think the first big kind of sequence that happens is the assassination sequence. The main assassination sequence with Zam Wessel trying to assassinate Padme. And, you got these amazing bounty hunters. You had Boba Fett in the originals. He built up a reputation. Even Darth Vader said Boba Fett had an amazing reputation. So you would think automatically that bounty hunters are quite lethal and, very, just you don't want to come across them. So what does Zam Wessel use to kill Padme Amidala? Killer worms. She gets a droid. She puts like a test tube of worms into it, flies it across the city to kill killer worms. Now, it's just like worst assassin ever, right? Like it's just so light. Like there's nothing urgent about it, and they keep cutting towards the worms, creeping up on the bed, creeping on the covers. Like if you're an assassin, things happen quick, right? This was just so pathetic. And what's even worse is Zam Wessel puts a rifle on her ship. Like she saws it on her ship. Right. Why does she get a little bit closer and just shoot? I mean, it just, I don't, look. And then at the end of the sequence, I'll link it all together. At the end of the sequence, when Zam Wessel dies, she gets shot by a dart by a million miles away by Jango Fett, right? If Jango Fett can shoot Zam Wessel from however far away with a dart, why doesn't Jango just assassinate Padme? It makes no sense. Why would you hire somebody with worms when you could easily you just took out your second in command. You just took out another bounty hunter with a dart, right? And that didn't, there was no bangs, there was no shots, there was no, what it was a little, and she's dead. Why doesn't, you could have even used the droid to make the hole which the worms went through and then shot her. Writing, the script is so bad. Like, the way she treats these characters is awful. Like, I couldn't care if Padme had died. Honestly.
Well, she could have died.
I couldn't care.
Yeah, but she can't die.
They just made this Zam Wessel person be completely pathetic and irrelevant. Worms?
How are the worms talking to each other, too? That's the one that gets me. They're like, let's just go over here.
I'm going to take it. I need someone to take over, otherwise I'm
Well, I agree. That's part of the issue that we have with the whole entire. It's just not. I don't even know. Doesn't seem like there's a lot of thought that was put in to the screenplay and the plot of this movie. And his directing in this movie was not very well. And you're right, Dan. When you look at it that way, there's so many contradictions behind the way the movie plays out. You're like, why would you even do that then? Why would you do this? Why would you say that? I agree. I mean, the whole point, look, it's filler, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I understand that the point of it is to progress the story of what they're trying to get to, but it just wasn't done well. Dave, what do you think?
I think the car chase scene was like way too long.
Oh, yeah.
It was. I do. It was just me. Well, that in the they're sitting there parked, and then Anakin jumps out, and I think the line right after it is something to the point of, "I hate when he does that."
I hate it when he does that.
And how often does he do that? Like specifically that, or is it like a bunch of that's, or is it like he doesn't listen to him, or what? I guess the only two things I really enjoy in this scene are just both comedic in general, and one is the Anakin, you're going to be the death of me comment as they're walking into the bar, and then the second one is Lucas's "don't do drugs, kids," with or "don't smoke cigarettes, kids," or whatever he was really trying to get at with the death sticks and the "these aren't the droids you're looking for" wave at it, right? But dude, I agree. One, why is Jango Fett just hanging out and watching the person go and potentially try to kill Padme? Like, why aren't you doing it? If you're getting paid for it, why aren't you just, why would you pay someone else? I don't know. Whatever. I guess I'm not a bounty hunter, so I don't know the don't know the mean streets of it. But I don't get that. I don't get the worms, dude. Worms.
Yeah, well, look, I don't know if he's trying. I think Dougie Walter Graham said it in the chat. Back in the day, I mean, way back in the day, I understand we have different technology in these movies. That was a form of assassination, was using those type of venomous animals to do that. I know back in the Egyptian days, they would put snakes in the bed. So I get it, but it just doesn't work for this movie when you have other forms of ways that'll be a lot more efficient to take her out. You're right. It's just, it contradicts logic, maybe.
I think there's a difference between having something made tense. I think what he was really going for was tense.
Sure, absolutely,
he
was.
But I would have rather had Zam Wessel with the rifle on another building, and actually Anakin sensing Zam Wessel with the rifle than using worms. And if he stopped the bullet, I think that would have been kind of way more intriguing, because, like, hey, that's an actual assassination. Like, as a kid, I'm like, why are there worms? Why is there a worm pooping robot coming into the, it's just like it wasn't, but I do, honestly, I actually do quite like the small bar scene. It broadens, I think, what George Lucas really wanted to do was to expand the universe. And I think having the death sticks guy, I actually quite liked him. I was just like, you want any death sticks? I don't want to need any death sticks. And he does the Jedi mind trick. It well builds. Like, it gives you like, hey, this problem on Coruscant is the same thing that we have here with drug dealers. Like, it mimics that, and I quite like that.
Right.
And I do like the line. I like the line where he says, "You'll be the death of me." It's apropos. I mean, ultimately, he's right. And that's fine that they threw that in there. I like that line. I think it's quippy, but it's an important and in some ways very insightful line down the road.
Yeah.
So I agree. So let's move on a little bit further into the movie, Dan.
Yeah.
Where do we want to
So like in the other film, there's a lot of walking and talking, a lot of exposition. Like I said last time in The Phantom Menace, the prequels, George Lucas liked to tell you all the information with people just sitting and talking. There's no action. There's no, there's nothing really, interesting that's going on. They're just talking about what's the next thing that's going to happen. So the next thing that's going to happen is that Anakin is being sent on a protective mission of Padme Amidala from whoever's trying to assassinate her, right?
In Naboo, I think.
In Naboo. So, like, right, we're going to send her back to Naboo. They're going to go undercover, and Anakin is going to protect Padme. And I have many, many issues with this. One, if this is meant to be an undercover mission, right? This not meant to be recognized as a Jedi, not meant to be recognized as anything like that. Why does Anakin still have the Jedi braid out if he's meant to be undercover. If he's meant to be undercover protecting Padme, why does he still have the braid? It doesn't make any sense to me, right? And they go to Naboo, and it's the most romantic thing, the most romantic settings in the world, in the universe, in the galaxy, right? And all, what George Lucas was like, okay, we've talked about midichlorians in the last film. Now we're going to talk about Jedi law, and they're not allowed to love. They're not allowed to be together, not allowed to get married, but they go on the most romantic trip to the most beautiful places, picnics by the waterfalls, open fires. I want to get married on Naboo. Like, give me a break. Like, if you wanted to go hide somewhere, go hide in Dagobah. That's what Yoda did.
Yeah.
Like, just don't. I understand why she wanted to go back home. I understand that. But if you're trying to hide from a bounty hunter, right? If you are a senator of Naboo, surely the last place where you would want to hide is Naboo.
Not just Naboo, but your country house.
Your country house. I mean, you could just watch any James Bond film. You don't go hide in a place where you used to live, whatever.
Unless it's Skyfall.
Unless it's Skyfall, but this is a 00 secret agent and not Hayden Christensen with a stupid Jedi braid that's saying, hey, look, everybody, I'm on a protective mission, but hey, look, I'm still a Jedi.
I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm just
great protective mission by the Jedi Council there. Again, prove it to you that the Jedi Council in these first two movies are idiots. They are. I'm sorry.
Well, they're portrayed that way. I don't think he means it to be that way, but you're right. When you really sit back and try to break down the movies, these are the plot holes that we've been talking about since we started 40 minutes ago that we have throughout this movie. And it's unfortunate that we have so many of them, and the more you watch the movie, the more you see the plot holes. And it's not that we want to find these plot holes. I hope everybody in the chat realizes that. It's not that we want these movies to be bad. We love all of us love Star Wars. That's why we're here and we're talking about them. We want them to be fantastic. We want to love them. We want to.
Well, here's my thing on this whole process, right? So, hey, we're gonna go hide somewhere, and you're gonna go hide at your place that because that's where we should go. But we're not just gonna fly there. Travel as refugees. So you hit on the braid thing, right? Like, Padme was wearing like this big, like half sun thing going on with jewels and stuff. Supposed to be refugees. And what refugee travels with a droid? Like R2-D2's right there with them. It's like,
but the thing is, right?
Escaping a planet. Go.
What happened? What happened at the end of the Phantom Menace? Right? They all stood on this kind of stage platform in Naboo, waving to everybody, saying, "Hey, we defeated the bad guys, whatever." Surely they are going to get recognized by the people traveling to that destination.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Right, I need to. And also talk about this romantic stuff. They go to these romantic settings. Padme Amidala's wardrobe gets more and more revealing. Okay, which entices Anakin to not love, which is what the Jedi are not allowed to do, which they do anyway.
Except for passion is unconditional love, and I have passion for being a Jedi. So
clearly, because he whines about it the whole time.
I'm supposed to love. So yeah, so my Anakin, my Anakin and Padme love story flowchart is you're still the little boy that I remember. Creepy stare by Anakin. Okay, kiss me. No, don't do that. That's fine. All right, time to picnic and ride some big tick-shaped cow deer. What's next? Roll around on the ground in a field like a Taylor Swift video. And literally, who eats fruit by cutting a pear? Not just cutting it, like I get that, but like cutting it across the bias. Like, who does that?
They do.
Only Hayden Christensen.
And there's no pear there. You just know it, and they're poking it out of the air with a fork that's not there, and you can tell because there's no like her fork doesn't stop at the right spot, and then it's forbidden. And then she wears some sort of like weird leather dominatrix outfit, a la what Dan just said. And then, oh crap, I gotta go save mom. Like that was that whole thing.
Thanks,
in a nutshell.
You're welcome. It just
look. Let me say this: I get it. I try to put logic where I can in this kind of stuff. Okay, you're right. They get caught up in the moment. Ultimately, he's a Jedi, yes, but he's obviously a very weak Jedi in that respect that he doesn't have self-control. So he's falling in love, even though he's not supposed to be falling in love. I can suspend disbelief with that. Okay, fair enough. But you're right. A lot of the other things that he throws in there are just a little too far-fetched to make it feel authentic. And that's what really throws it for me. That whole entire scene, it's just we get that they're going to fall in love because that's where the story has to go. It's just how he does it that really... Thank you, Donna. That was very nice. I appreciate that very much. you need to keep ranting. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you, Donna.
That's hilarious.
Very much. But I don't know. I want to touch on probably where the movie, if it ever kicks off at all, it's got to be when we get to Geonosis to an extent. Okay? For me. And I know we're going to get there at some point. But I do want to touch on that because that's one of the most important battles and parts of the movie.
It is. I just want to quickly bring up Camino first.
Oh yes, Camino before Jimmy. Absolutely.
We've already talked about this Dexter bar thing that Dave brought up earlier. And, you know, we come across this planet. This planet, honestly, looks cool. Really cool. It's a water planet with these kind of silver-looking domes and these dragon things, and then these humanoid kind of half... I don't even know what they kind of look like. They've got massively long giraffe xenomorph heads. They're cool. I really like the look of them. But we get introduced to this plot line called Master Sifo-Dyas book planned. You know, he put a reservation for all these clone troopers 10, 12 years ago. And it's immediately this plot line comes up that never gets revisited again. Master Sifo-Dyas, that's the first time they mentioned it. All right, he's gone now.
Right.
Doesn't bother me too much. The thing that bothers me a lot about Camino is that there was no actors playing the clones. Every clone trooper you see in this movie is CGI. And I think that's an insult to Star Wars, especially the people who love Stormtroopers and Darth Vader, because it just makes them feel like the battle droids, just lifeless, non-interesting. They just are so bland, these clone troopers. And they even cast a young Boba Fett who has 2 words. And even that, this little kid can't even get those right. You know, he goes, "Is your father here?" "Yep." "Can we see him?" "Sure." like you should be like, "Is your father here?" "Yeah, he's here." "Can we see him?" "Yeah, sure. Come on in." You know, acting seriously. How George Lucas hires child actors is dreadful. This is Boba Fett. This is Boba Fett, guys.
He looks like an Oompa Loompa.
He does.
Okay, I'm not the only one that thought that.
He does.
Here's the thing about Camino. You're right, Dan, because there's a lot of potential. I'll use that word for this part of the movie because we are told about the Clone Wars all the way back to Episode 4, A New Hope. We start hearing about Clone Wars, and it's part of the backstory that we need to get to. And I love the fact that they started to and now incorporate the clones. We're starting now to find out where they're from, how they were created, the reason for them being created. I agree 100%. I won't get into CGI over real people just yet. I'm saving that for Geonosis, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I liked the Camino because, first off, the other thing I did like about Camino, I liked the scene between Jango and Obi-Wan.
Yep.
It's not long, but it's actually a decent fight scene. I like that scene in the water, in the rain. It's not terrible for me. That's just me. Dave, what are your thoughts?
No, I like the fight scene also. Camino to me it's decent. The CGI, the whole thing's one big green screen.
Sure.
And you know, Ewan McGregor pulled it off pretty well. I think you can tell that they tried to introduce some tension between Django and Obi-Wan, and I thought they did an okay job there. My thing is like, look, if I'm this Sifo-Dyas guy and I go, there must not be many places that make clone troopers, because if my lead time is 10 years when I place an order, I'm going to be a little upset. I mean, come on, I don't buy in to that part of it. That's the one part that bothers me about this is like, okay, well, we think that we might need an army in 10 years, so we're finally going to have you build us one. It's not like they went to this place where they just have clone armies,
but
right?
Like, but that's part of the issue for me is they don't really explain how long they've asked. You know, they might have asked for these clones 6 months ago, and they made all of them in 6 months. We don't know how long it's been.
Well, didn't they say 10 years, Dan?
The movie's
something like that.
10 years later, but we don't know how long they've been creating the clones. Yeah. Do they ever really say that? I don't know that we ever really get that.
I'm not sure if they did or not, but I remember them saying they did order but I don't know if they gave us an actual timeline. But
you might be right. I'm not sure, and I agree 100%. I don't know. I really love the clones. They could have done more.
They could have done more, and I just want to pick up the Django Obi-Wan fight scene. Look, it's fine for me. I think it's okay. What I find quite funny about this scene is that Obi-Wan keeps getting blown up. He really does. He keeps getting blown up. He got blown up by Django's rocket. He got blown up by the Slave One shooting at him. But there was no scarring anywhere on his body.
Right.
He was like something out of Dragon Ball Z. Like he got fired up and nothing happened. Like, I mean, his clothes didn't get burnt. Okay, it's in the rain, but you know you can still light a fire in the rain, right? It's it's details like that. Right. Probably one of the favorite scenes in that fight scene is when he does he jumps up and karate kicks Jango Fett in midair. I think that's a great kind of little stunt there. Just shows how ridiculous but funny it is. But you know, I can't take this movie seriously now that it's halfway through. And they still don't, give me details like, hey, he just got blown up twice and nothing, no scarring, no nothing.
Well, the one thing that always bothered me about it is like, how many of these backpacks does Jango Fett have? Because it gets kicked off of him, and like he doesn't go and get it, right? Like it's just gonzo. It's like, well, I got 6 more on Slave One. We'll see what happens. I don't know, but that's not just this movie. That's a plot hole in a whole lot.
It could be movies. Like Django could have said to Bubba, like, Bubba, can you get me my backpack? Yep. Can you send it down to me? Sure. Yep.
Same 2 lines. It would have been great.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. But yes, I agree. But I don't mind the Camino scene. I understand the where it fits into the plot. But we have to go there at some point. We have to learn where the clones come from, who they're created by, and the reason why they were created, and to see them, understand their immense numbers, maybe, is what we're looking for there. But so I get it. I mean, Camino, I don't mind that part of the movie, to be honest with you.
I don't mind it. I think it's tolerable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, there's very few, if any, great or awesome moments throughout this movie. If we have any, you're right. If there's anything positive, it's more of that's the perfect word, tolerable. Yeah.
Yeah. So should we continue to the next scene? Because it's a very important scene.
Yeah.
The most iconic piece of dialogue to ever hurt my ears by a character who lives on a sand planet
I
And
know
he
where you're
says,
going with this.
he says, I don't like sand. It's coarse, it's rough, and it gets everywhere. And he throws it down like he's having a tantrum. He
Not like-
lived on Tatooine.
And then he said, "Not like you, soft and."
He said in the previous movie, sandstorms are very, very dangerous. At this movie, I'm not even kidding you guys. I'm not even kidding.
I
Every
know.
time I hear this line, I'm like, I want to shut this movie off.
Yeah,
Because this is one of the worst lines, not in Star Wars history, in movie history, because it serves no logic. This character was born on a planet made out of sand.
But Dan,
that doesn't mean he has to like it.
then
But he's meant to, you know, you can at least tolerate. He's
but like 8 minutes later in the movie, he just flies back there. So
he flies back there. He goes back.
But why does he go back?
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. This sequence for me was the most tolerated out of all of it. I think his chemistry with his mother and the Tusken Raiders is actually pretty good. I really do quite like that.
I agree.
And when she dies, and you get that rage out of him, you get that rage, and he's about to slaughter Tusken Raiders, and then wipe. They cut it. They don't show him cutting down the Tusken Raiders. They were going for that PG rating, but this is Anakin. This is his first steps to becoming Darth Vader. I wanted him to see cutting down, not just the men, but the women and the children too. Instead of him saying it like a pathetic, whiny brat, I want to see him do that because there's nothing better that conveys emotion than seeing it rather than saying it. They could have made this one of the best scenes in the franchise if George Lucas didn't cut it after he saw his mother die in his arms. It's a powerful scene, but he cuts it. It's too short.
Go ahead, Dave. Your thoughts?
I agree. This is I actually like this arc. Okay. Hey, let's go save my mom. He goes, he meets his stepdad, I guess. And then we're introduced to Uncle Ben and Aunt Beru. So that's cool. We kind of get that whole deal thrown in there. I thought it was a nice little tidbit.
Yeah.
Then he goes out. And, 50 of them went out and only 6 of them came back and one of them didn't have a leg. And then he goes out by himself because he's a Jedi on some weird speeder bike where, I don't know, some of the face shots were a little iffy. Whatever. At any rate, he goes out, does his thing, finds his mom. She dies, kills everyone. We don't see anything. And then he comes back and then they just have to go help Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a plot hole. They could have gone a lot further with this to make it more impactful in the story of where we're going. I agree 100% because leading up to that moment where he finds out his mother's been taken and he's going to go try and save her, and you see him on the speeder and they're playing the music in the background and you can feel it. This is the first steps. You can see it in his eyes. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then he gets there and he sees his mom and she dies. And Dan, you guys, you're both right. I mean, they stop it right there. It could have been such a more impactful scene to really understand that here he goes. His first steps to becoming, Darth Vader have begun, that they just cut it. And
not even just like specifically cutting the scene out where he slaughters the Tusken Raiders, but like the whole arc just stops.
Yes.
Like it doesn't continue on, that he has this frustration. Like he literally just forgets that he watched his mom die and he killed a bunch of people and he flies to Geonosis. Now I get it. You got to go help your buddy, but you're not going to be in the best frame of mind when you're going to do that. Nothing continues out of it. It was just like, we're going to drop this chunk in right here. And then, okay, we show that he's bad. So he could be bad. So yeah, get some buy-in. And now we're going to go on to a place where I'm sure Dan's going to rant about apparently how you kill captives, but I'll leave that for him.
It's true. Real fast. I agree 100%. They cut it too fast. You know, he just explains it really. He summarizes what he did, and then we move on.
Yeah.
But even when he summarizes it, it's still going back to that whiny, like bad dialogue.
Yeah,
It's meant to be emotional. It should have been like imagine him being on his hands and knees, right? Or just like sitting against the corner and talking to Padme, like just talking to her quietly, saying, "I killed, men and women and children, and how could I do it? This is not the Jedi way." But he just has a full-on tantrum.
Yeah,
it's not the way I think it should have been done.
George Lucas probably retake that scene probably 10 times, and after the 10th time, he was probably like,
he's like, forget it,
go with it.
Forget it. I'm going to talk about asteroid fields, which I'm going to talk about now. Asteroid fields, rocks in space. One thing I really liked about this movie was the seismic charges.
Oh yeah,
those are cool.
Those
are really cool. I love those.
Yeah, they were. Because you can hear stuff in space.
Because you can hear stuff in space. I'm just saying this was a cool thing.
Yeah,
but the one thing I hated about this scene was Jango Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi flying through the asteroid field like it was a sunny afternoon in the park, right? What was one of the best lines in The Empire Strikes Back? Sir, the odds of surviving an asteroid field is 300 billion to 1. Never tell me the odds. That little scene with C-3PO and Han Solo builds up tension. Like, they're not going to make it through this asteroid. Asteroid fields are tense and terrifying. Then no one's going to survive them.
It's true.
Yeah?
Well, Princess Leia has the line, too. Well, Princess Leia has a line where she says to him, she's like, I said I wanted to be there when you messed up. I take it back.
I take it back, yeah.
It was in the asteroid field. She's like, no, I take that back.
It was a tense and a great scene. But Obi-Wan Kenobi's like, like it's no big deal. Granted, okay, it may be a different asteroid field than another one. But it's just like, it just takes that Empire Strikes Back scene, which is great. And this is kind of like that Naboo scene I was telling you about last time with the animals. When there's no it just is, it's the wrong decision. I'd rather take out that bit of the movie and just let them fly to Geonosis, let Obi-Wan get captured, and then talk to an old stern gentleman who's not as cool as Darth Maul. This guy was meant to be like dark, like Count Dooku, right? Darth Maul was awesome in the last film. We're going to meet a new villain this time, and we get this old stern gentleman, right? As if he's just come out of a retirement home. I'm not saying anything about Christopher Lee. I think he's a marvelous actor. But this guy, like, this is it. This old, like, he should have had like a walking frame and.
So here's. I don't mind Christopher Lee in this movie. He's all right for me.
He does a great performance.
But that's why I like him, because he's different than Darth Maul. He's a different take on an apprentice to the Sith. I don't know. I like the fact that he's different than what we got in the first movie. Go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Well, he's a businessman. He's not going to go out there like Darth Maul, just try to kill everyone. No, we're going to try to create a separatist organization and pull away from the...
Which leads to nothing, really.
Well, exactly. But here's my take. And this is kind of... It's a very thinly veiled subtone running through the entire movie. And that is industry versus, whether you want to call it ideology or government or whatever. Because this is... If you look at the scene where you would think all these big baddies are getting together to create the separatist organization, right? And it is Count Dooku, who looks like he's an executive vice president, maybe a little higher middle management, whatever, sitting there with the Trade Federation, the metallurgical metal guy from Metaltown,
or the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz,
or Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz, and the dude from the Bankers Union. That's his title. Okay, so all right, everyone who potentially wants to make money is at this table, and we're gonna get away from the government, right? So it's ridiculous, but it's also translated if you look when Padme and Anakin land, and they have to get through the big industrial machine as they are trying to escape the little weird flyy dealy things that are trying to kill them. It's interesting to me that it's like, oh, I'm going to have social commentary, but I'm not going to use a contraction in any of what I'm going to write. I don't know. And this isn't me, saying, oh, let's dive into this, but legit, it's just really, really thinly veiled that, okay, here's one side, here's the other side. Let's take a stab at it's 2002. Let's just take a stab at some social commentary. Yeah. Because people love that in space operas.
The Jedi was sitting and talking. So why don't the bad guys sit and talk as well?
Right, even better.
Wants to see, And this whole conveyor belt thing, I want to give everybody, I want to recommend a movie. Also came out in 2002. Directed by Steven Spielberg, friends with George Lucas, called Minority Report. Both this film, Attack of the Clones, and Minority Report, released in the same year, both had conveyor belt scenes, which the protagonist had his hand caught. George Lucas must have saw his best friend Steven Spielberg's Minority Report and say, "Oh, I like that scene in Minority Report. I'm going to put it in Attack of the Clones."
It's not the first time Spielberg, or I'm sorry, it's not the first time. Well, Spielberg does it too, but it's not the first time that Lucas has borrowed. And frankly, the whole scene in Geonosis was borrowed from. Oh, it wasn't Spartacus, was it?
He's taking stuff from everything.
Yeah, you can find those types of scenes. Absolutely, yeah, for sure, absolutely. I mean. How often do we see things that are kind of recycled?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
lots of Disney films are recycled. So.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I don't know. The conveyor belt scene is terrible. It's so. First off, it's very fake looking as they're dodging and weaving. You can tell they're not dodging and weaving anything that's real. Yeah. It's all CGI. It's not really. You never feel a sense of, oh my God, something might really happen to them, because it just doesn't feel right. That's where the CGI to me is really not good. That's where maybe something a little bit more authentic could have done something to make that a little bit more viable. I don't even know how to say it, because the whole scene it's unnecessary. Obviously, it's filler. Okay, that's fine. But I do like other parts of Geonosis, which we're going to get into in a minute.
Yeah.
Parts of it that I thought could make it even better.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that. We'll start with you guys. Obviously, we got to get into the big arena scene at Geonosis.
There's a big scene. But first, we've spoken for just over an hour, and we haven't mentioned this little rabbit in the room. Jar Jar Binks. So before the Jedi can go off to do their big, battle with the droids, Palpatine's in power.
Right.
Jar Jar Binks, the little rabbit that he is, says we need to give emergency powers to Palpatine. Now let's break this down. You could arguably say that Jar Jar Binks, this little thing that he is responsible for the downfall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire, because he gave emergency powers to Palpatine. And George Lucas, I bet you anything, George Lucas was writing the script and he's like, they didn't like Jar Jar in the last film. I won't bring him in so much in this film, but I'll ruin everybody's childhood by making sure that Jar Jar Binks is responsible for Palpatine becoming all high, powerful, mighty.
Now, did he suggest it, or was he the one that acted? I can't remember. Did he suggest that he should have the power, or did?
Yeah, he convinced. He said, "I suggest that we give emergency powers to Palpatine." So he was the one who gave this idea to the Senate and say, right, we need to give emergency powers. So
well, I blame the Senate for listening to him.
He had 3 lines in the movie, and that was
3 lines in the movie. 3 lines. And Palpatine could have easily, because Force works on the weak-minded. He could have easily just manipulated Jar Jar by saying, "Hey, I need emergency powers. Hey, I need to take over the world. Hey, I need to." I'm sorry.
Damn, we're gonna get into the better movies. They're coming. They're coming.
This is the last. Like you could tell how much I hate this movie.
Yeah, I can. No, not at all.
Oh, geez. But okay, Geonosis, go. I'll let you take over Geonosis.
Well, Dave, I want you to
go for it, man.
You're good. So I actually don't mind the Geonosis scene. I like it. I like the action in it. I like the 3 monsters that come out that they're going to use to execute them. I like the fact that they do it in almost like a Roman type way in the arena with the entire crowd cheering them on to watch the gladiators die at the hands of the monsters. I like that. I think that's cool. I like the fact that he used that. The monsters that he brought out, they're unique in their own way. They remind me of Star Wars. What I don't like, again, is how the actors do in this role. They don't look scared at all. If I saw one of those things coming at me, I can't even say what I would have done. I would have lost it. I would have been, even as a Jedi, I would have at least felt some sort of, uh-oh, I got to get it together right now. Or when she gets scratched the one time by the cat, it's like, ow, and then, oh, I'm fine. Let me keep going.
Yeah, and it's like, you got 2 Jedis and a senator, and the one who is the least scared is Padme.
Yep.
She's the one climbing up the pole thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's too bad, too, because there's a lot of potential with that. Just before we even get into the rest of the Geonosis fight scene, that right there could have been potential to be suspenseful and action-packed and kind of iconic, but it kind of fell by the wayside. What do you guys think?
Well, the only scratch that anyone got on them was so that Padme had to show her midriff.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, my take on the whole thing is like, okay, you capture these guys. What are you doing? Like, why are we all of a sudden in a Roman Colosseum where we're going to execute these people? It just doesn't make sense. You're a separatist organization trying to take over the entire galaxy, but yet you're going to take a real quick pause to put on a show for a bunch of weird little flyy Geonosians. Right? I don't get it. From an entertainment standpoint, I thought it was pretty good. Like you said, it was CGI, and there were some nods, and I really wish I should have looked it up. But the big weird walkie thing, right? And Obi-Wan Kenobi with the spear, it's actually a direct take from something in the 50s, and I can't think of it right now. If someone in the chat knows, please let me know. But I thought it was decent. And then here come the droids.
I don't mind the fact that they use the arena. Look, I always used to say, if we have to suspend disbelief a little bit. Why is it in every James Bond movie the bad guy always tells his elaborate plan to James Bond just before he has to elaborately kill him instead of just shooting him in the head? So,
but why didn't Jango Fett just shoot Padme at the Madonna at the beginning of the movie?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So I get it. I understand that it's all about being epic and trying to give us a spectacle.
Yeah.
So I think that's why they do this, because they don't want to make it straightforward and boring. They want to put something in there a little bit different. I'm with you on all that.
Yeah.
But how they execute it is where they fail for me.
I almost expected Maximus Decimus Meridius to come out and go, "Are you not entertained?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not entertained by this movie." I'll just rather go watch Gladiator, because that has 2 amazing gladiatorial scenes and this just doesn't.
No, it's not great. Well, it's not on that level. Good Lord, no. Oh my gosh.
Oh my god!
It doesn't get much better than that. But
the droids coming in. I mean, they had to put C-3PO's head on a droid body. Did they really have to do that?
No, not at all. They were trying to bring comedic relief, I guess.
But it wasn't. This is C-3PO.
I know.
Like, you don't want to see that. It's like seeing R2-D2 like being replaced with a wheel can, like a trash can, or a Dalek.
Push. He's being replaced with Push.
Or Push from Tomorrowland. Like, you know, it's just like he's trying to be funny. And this is a tense part of the movie. However tense it's gonna be. Like, you know, this is the big climax of the movie.
Yeah.
And you've got silly things like C-3PO's head being put on a robot body. You got Jango Fett being killed off as quickly as Boba Fett was killed off in The Return of the Jedi.
Well, at least he was consistent.
I don't care. Just like, and then you got Mace Windu finally does something. He's taken him 2 movies to do something, and the whole of the Jedi Order to do something. And okay, we get some Jedi flinging their lightsabers about, you know, that first little bit. Okay, it's, you know, it's getting me excited, but it just tanks. It tanks.
I think it tanks because they don't use, like you said, real people as the antagonist to fight them in that scene. Everything's CGI, so you can tell they're just swinging their lightsabers at nothing.
Oh, it's just
Dave, what do you think of that whole fight scene?
I don't know. You guys took everything. You're fine. It's again. We've hinted at it. We haven't gotten there. It's overproduced and I guess underperforming, right? It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating because, you know, it looks like they're dancing, not fighting. There's nothing real about it,
Right.
at all.
Yeah. And that's where the lack of having someone real next to you fighting plays this, because it's just they're swinging and they incorporate all the CGI in there and make it work, but you can just tell. I mean, when you look at Samuel L. Jackson, he's just doing the whole time. It's like, you know what he's doing. He's just
even when he's talking to the clone troopers, it looks like he's talking to nobody. It's like you could have just held up a tennis ball and say, talk to the tennis ball.
He's staring right through them. He's not looking where they should be. He's looking like at the wall behind them, and you can tell.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that's from. I don't know if that's just him being enamored with the fact that he wanted to use so much CGI, if it was a cost thing that he didn't want to pay for people, or if it was a time thing that maybe he had, a certain amount of time he had to get the movie out by. I don't know what the factors were as to why he went this route. I wish that we knew.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, from there, after the Battle of Geonosis, we kind of get to what ultimately will be near the end of the movie. And it's one of the bigger parts of the movie as well, which they're hoping to be the climactic part. And that's the part inside, I guess that's a cave, right?
It's like a hangar, isn't it? It's like a cave,
it's like a hangar thing. Yeah, inside of a mountain, where we finally get some action from Count Dooku as well. And
whoa. Count Dooku's stunt double.
Oh, sure, of course. Absolutely.
Christopher Lee is pretty spry. What are you talking about?
He was like 85 when they made that movie.
But you can clearly tell it's not him. Like, was Ian McKellen, he could go at his age.
No, it was not Ian McKellen doing all that. Trust me. That was a stunt double. That guy would have had it. I love
what
Ian
I'm saying
McKellen,
is it's quite, but that stunt double is way more convincing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Than Christopher 3, whatever his name was.
No, I agree. Oh yeah, absolutely. It was hard to tell the difference. I agree, but with this guy, you could tell.
I know we might have differences in opinions, maybe on this last scene, but I think this is one of the worst scenes in the franchise. You know what? I'm gonna say it. It's probably the worst scene in this movie.
All right. Well, we'll go one by one on the scene. Dan, you tell me why, and then
Right. Let me tell you why. Firstly, Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Count Dooku is more like Anakin and Obi-Wan dance light show, where have you ever seen those like neon shows where it's all like complete pitch black, and then they have like fluorescent lighting all over their body, and they're doing like these like dance moves. I felt like it was just like that. There was no choreography. There was nothing. You had Duel of the Fates in Phantom Menace, which was fantastic. It really was amazing. And then you got Anakin and Obi-Wan like doing this kind of like weird dance thing with fake Count Dooku, and they lose in the end. And then it comes to Yoda, right? This was the worst decision George Lucas could have ever done in this franchise, because here's the thing: Yoda is meant to be the most powerful Jedi in the galaxy, right? To prove that, I would have had him wait till Revenge of the Sith to see him for the first time. You're like, oh, like stuff is going down. He's going up against Darth Sidious. We get to see him fight for the first time. Instead, we get him face off against fake Christopher Lee, and he's doing barrel rolls. You know, he's flinging a lightsaber like he's like, it's wrong. What does he say in The Empire Strikes Back? The Force is not about muscle. This tissue matter is nothing. It's all about the Force that binds us, the galaxy, together, right? It's not about how to fling your lightsaber. It completely contradicts the best character in The Empire Strikes Back. It just is wrong in every single way. You know, even if he just did the lightning and the Force stuff without the lightsaber, I would have been okay with that. But the fact that they do the slow-mo cam where he Force grips his lightsaber out of his pocket and starts flinging around like he's on a turntable at a DJ party, it's wrong. It's just wrong. And I would have rather had Mace Windu be in that situation. I think saving that scene for Revenge of the Sith, where we finally get to see Yoda for the first time fight in Revenge of the Sith, would be much more compelling for the character than being in Attack of the Clones. It just is not choreographed well. It's CGI heavy.
Sure.
And Yoda effectively loses in the end. Yoda loses. He has to save Obi-Wan and Anakin. Count Dooku gets on top of him. It just didn't work for me at all. I can't deal with this scene. I'm sorry.
What about you, Dave?
Well, so Dan, if you remember back in 2002, there's a lot of techno going on, a lot of house music. And frankly, if they would have dropped that in behind, it would have been like two dudes with glow sticks on top of a balcony. Just it would have been, yeah. So I'm with you on that. I mean, here's where I think it totally misses. If you look at A New Hope, the lightsaber battle in A New Hope is completely.
It's not good.
Well, no, it's not. But it's sword fighty, right? Like
fencing. It's more fencing.
Well, exactly. And what gets me and what has always gotten me is the fact that you go back to even Phantom Menace, all of the advancements that were made in technology so that they could show these elaborate scenes, even with Darth Maul, who, okay, Darth Maul, the character, did a whole bunch of that stuff, but you didn't get Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan jumping around doing whatever. You do in this movie. So now you have this history of the Jedi being very dancy with their sword fights, and then all of a sudden it's lost, right? I don't know. It bothers me that they did that. It's almost like, you know, episode 2, even episode 1, everything looks really, really techie, and then they had to retrograde everything in Revenge of the Sith so that it matched A New Hope. It's very similar with this for me here. Okay, so that's one. If I remember back to when I first saw this movie, I loved Yoda jumping around because it was like, oh, bad word that I want to, you know, like it was like it's going to go down, right? And now you look at it in retrospect, I agree with you in that it would have been better if, okay, the lightning thing happened, because he is the Force at that point. He is the #1 numero uno Jedi Master. And for him to, like you pointed out, say it's not about muscle, but yet I'm going to do 6 barrel rolls and try to get the upper hand. I agree, man. I remember being so excited at this scene in 2002, and then watching it again even before this, and being like, "What are they doing?" It doesn't fit. Now, I do have to say, Yoda, taking the Jedi Council credit card and going to Geonosis and getting all the clone troopers, paying off whatever he owes the Geonosians, definitely worked out with him swooping in at that point, because that's what a #1 would do. But
sorry, but I know Walt wants to get onto this, but I thought, how we talked about Anakin slowly turning, right? This is meant to be his first steps turning. What they could have easily done was have Obi-Wan go down like he did, and then have Anakin kill Count Dooku in a less gruesome way, like he did in Revenge of the Sith. Have Dooku die, and have General Grievous be the main secondary villain in Revenge of the Sith.
Right.
That's how I see it, because that way we still get Anakin developing a little bit more, getting more angry, getting that development that we should have got with the Tusken Raiders, except he goes down as well. Dooku is now 2-0 and waiting for Yoda, and then we could have had more time with Grievous in the next movie. So that's just how I should have seen it. I'm sorry, I should really stop,
right.
but I want to hear because I know you may be a little bit different. I think we've spoken in the past about this scene.
Well, I'm totally the exact opposite of both of you guys.
Yeah.
I thought this scene was done very well, and I'll tell you why. First off, I like the fact that we finally get to see what Yoda can do. I understand that he says you don't have to have muscle, and it's not about muscle, but it is about having to use your lightsaber from time to time. And in this case, he had to. I love the fact that he jumped around and showed the extent of what he can do if he has to. First off, he's half the size of everybody, so he can't stand toe-to-toe. If he wants to be eye level with them, he's got to jump around, because he's got to be up at his level at some point. So I like that. What I didn't like was all the yelling he did. I think they could have cut that out.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like he lost in this. I feel like Dooku cheated. That's why he won. He cheated. He threw the thing down on Anakin and Obi-Wan. He knew he had to stop to save them two. He wanted to get away. He knew he was going to lose, so he cheated. He threw that thing down on top of them to get away. And Yoda had to choose, keep fighting and win, or save them two. That's how I saw it. And I like the fact that for me, and let me just say this, they gave us a taste of what Yoda can do. They didn't give us too much, but they showed that, look, he may look like he's old and decrepit and needs a cane, but when the man's got to throw down, he's going to throw down. Yeah, and I like that. I didn't mind the scene. I didn't.
I like the fact there was a tease. I could have feel like they could have just kept it with the lightning and the force pushing, force whatever. But I think this is the whole thing with Star Wars. Like, people going to like and dislike scenes, and you know what? I completely respect people's opinions, and there are people, and I'm going to be blatantly obvious. When I was a kid, I loved this scene. I thought it was amazing. Like, Yoda, really taking it to Dooku is awesome. But I think, obviously people change, people see things in different ways. So I'm actually quite happy that we both have different opinions, because I think up until now, from Phantom Menace and most of this movie, we were pretty much in agreement.
Yeah, and the whole thing with Anakin too, I understand, he got carried away. He was out of control. He let his anger get the better of him, so he went after Dooku without being under control, and he got whooped.
Yeah,
he got whooped by a superior person or a Jedi who basically said, "Well, now I'm gonna teach you a lesson," and he did. And so that's just me, though. I mean, I really didn't mind the scene at all. It was nice to see Yoda kick a little butt.
Sure. After all the sitting he's doing for the first two movies.
Yeah, that's
nice to see. Okay, I guess. But
For me,
Yeah.
I mean, that's my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah. But then Anakin and Padme get married at the end.
Exactly.
So anticlimactic.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, you know, I want everybody to summarize. I know we've been going for an hour and a half now, and I thank you to everybody who stuck with us. I really appreciate all the ranting and everything, and we definitely appreciate you guys hanging on. But I want to summarize. Everybody kind of summarize. You can give it a 1 to 10 star rating, whatever you want to do. What you like, what you don't like, real fast, and kind of summarize. Dave, as our guest, we're going to start with you.
Can I ask what the expletive deleted was up with Anakin's hand? Was that not the worst?
It's true.
I'm like, wait, are you kidding me? This is what this is the beginning of Darth Vader, and are you kidding me? Anyway, okay. It's middling at best, I guess. Do I have to rate it? Because I don't want to rate it.
No, you don't have to.
Where would you put it in your order of Star Wars films?
Oh, wow. Oh, man. Oh, that's tough. It's bottom 3 for sure. Probably bottom 2. I really don't know if I dislike this or Phantom Menace more.
Okay.
So, it's down there for me. Like you guys were saying, as we progress through the next couple, we're going to talk a lot more about, or you're going to talk a lot more about positive stuff, right? I just don't understand. And looking at episode 1 and 2, I don't understand why Lucas started where he did. Why didn't we get Revenge of the Sith, but expanded over 3 movies? Like, that's what I don't get. Right. I don't think, comparison to Phantom Menace, yes, this drives the story of Anakin forward a little bit, but it seems forced. And we already talked about a lot of the places that they missed where you could have really wrapped it up with a bow that he was starting to go down this dark path. But besides that, man, I mean, if you were to say, or if my kids were to come up to me and say, Dad, let's watch a Star Wars movie, what am I watching? It's not this at all. Like, I forgot that I had purchased it on Amazon when I went back to watch it. Like, I'm like, oh, I own this? So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely bottom 2, maybe a 4 or 5 out of 10 or 50 or something like that. I don't know.
All right.
But
Dan?
Before I get into my summary, I just need to remember that we do have our 5 question Star Wars trivia, which I have a couple of questions.
That's good, because I didn't give them this week.
It's fine. Don't worry. I got you. It's fine. It's Joey as well. Joey as well said DizneyDan summary plus Star Wars rant equals hashtag DizneyDan. Okay. Summary of Attack of the Clones. As everybody could figure out, I really hate this movie. I'm sorry. I mean, I'd rather watch Jaws: The Revenge, Indiana Jones 5, or 4, because 5's not released yet, but God help us. I'd rather watch Die Another Day or over this film. Look, I love Star Wars. And you said this last time, when you talked about the Phantom Menace. For me, I'm using the U word. No, it's not you. It's D. It's disappointing. It's disappointing. You know when sometimes as a kid you do something really bad, and your parents go, "I'm not sad. I'm just very disappointed."
Yeah, absolutely, sure.
I feel like this is Attack of the Clones. I was so disappointed because I thought maybe they could redeem themselves after Phantom Menace, and they let me down badly. And no surprise, guys, this is the lowest Star Wars movie on my list by a country mile. I think Phantom Menace is tolerable. This, I can honestly tell you, there is not one full scene in this movie that I like.
Right.
I'm being absolutely... Look, I love the seismic charges. Bring. I like the death sticks. Great. I like how Obi-Wan Kenobi does the karate kick on Jango Fett in the Camino scene. But there's nothing for me redeeming about this movie. They could have easily just cut this movie out and gone from Phantom Menace to Revenge of the Sith, and no one. I couldn't really. I really don't need to watch this movie. It's just, it's bad. Look, guys. If you like Attack of the Clones, I'm not going to judge you at all. I look that people love different things. That's perfectly okay. There's going to be Star Wars movies that I love that people won't like, or there's Star Wars movies that people, hate that I like. Like, everyone has an opinion.
Sure.
If you love Attack of the Clones, great. I really, really don't like it. And I will refuse to watch it because sand gets everywhere.
Absolutely. Well, for me, it's not my least favorite. It's my second least favorite. I won't get into my least favorite. That'll be coming. But it is very close to being my least favorite. There are very few redeeming values to this movie for me. As a kid, like I said, Dan, before we got on air, and Dave, I told you, I was around for the original trilogy. I was there on opening day for each and every one of them. These movies disappoint me heavily compared to where we started with the original trilogy back in the 70s and the 80s. And for the fact that it still astonishes me that it's the same person doing these movies, and yet he has missed terribly the way he has. I just don't get it. But, and all of us here are Star Wars fans. We all love Star Wars. We want to love these movies, but we also want to be fair and real to our review of what we say for these movies. I agree. It's not a very good movie at all. I think I'm with Dave. I maybe a 4, maybe not even that, but maybe a 4 for half of each scene that might have been good. But that, I agree. It's not one of the better movies, but we have good movies coming, and we'll be talking about them soon. So there you go, everybody. That's our review of Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Now, before we head out, obviously, we want to say a big thank you to Dan, DizneyDan, who, of course, is my partner in this every single month as we do them. And a very special thank you to Dave from Brandy and Dave for joining us as our special guest. I hope you had a good time, Dave.
It was a blast. It was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for inviting me on. Always have fun talking Star Wars. I feel like if you'll have me, I'd like to come back and talk more positively about it, because if this is the only exposure that certain people get to me or the internet gets to me talking about Star Wars, they're going to be like, this guy's a Star Wars fan? So,
well, no, you're by all means, please plug your channel so they can get other exposure of you and Brandy for sure. Go ahead.
I appreciate that. YouTube, it is youtube.com/BrandyDave. We're Brandy Dave on all the social medias, Brandy and Dave. So Brandy and Dave on Instagram, Brandy and Dave with _s on Twitter. We have a Facebook page. Also, you can find me on the mean Twitter streets being sarcastic.
Anything coming up?
Anything coming up? Well, we just threw out our third minivan review today. It's on the good old YouTube. Some more Galaxy's Edge focused content. If you want to hear Dave rant about random Disney stuff, I mean, starting this whole backside of topic series where I'm just going off about stuff, it's a lot of fun. But we also have the Disfluencers podcast that Dan was on recently. Lots of fun spotlighting great people in the Disney influencer community. And that's been a blast. We've had a lot of really good conversations and learned a lot. So it's a blast. Thank you so much again, guys, for having me on. I 100% appreciate it.
Oh, our pleasure.
Yeah.
Dan, before we plug your channel, do you want to do the trivia before or after we do the plugs?
Let's do trivia as because I think people will answer the trivia. So giving an update at the moment, Dougie has 3 points from last month, and Juan Rodriguez has 2. So like we said, every single month we're going to do our trivia based around the movie that we were talking about in the episode. And you are going to, by the end of the year, have the chance to compete for a big Star Wars prize, maybe even now a Star Wars Galaxy's Edge prize. Because obviously the big announcement this week of Galaxy's Edge opening up. So maybe we will do a prize with Galaxy's Edge involved. So this trivia is all about Attack of the Clones. I can't remember the name because we haven't talked about it for a long time. Now, Walt, I need to ask you something. Is Steve and Dave allowed to compete?
Yes,
I think so. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Dave, you're gonna have to type it and not say it.
Got it.
Okay. Right. So these are all questions based around Attack of the Clones. 5 questions that I've literally just made up. What color is Obi-Wan's spaceship while traveling to Kamino?
Oh, that's a good one.
I believe Dave got it first.
That's what I see.
Now, there is obviously there's a delay. So shall I give the second person as well? Because obviously Dave will hear it before me.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I don't think
I'm seeing the same thing. I'm seeing Dave first, but I'm seeing It's Joey's World next.
I'm hearing it before they're getting it. So
okay, let's
give it to Joey's World.
All right,
and I will abstain for
okay, and then next month you'll be able to compete. Okay, so
Okay.
Joey's World, you're getting the first point of the evening. All right, good. Right, second question. Okay, what is the name of the owner of the restaurant in which Obi-Wan asks about the dart?
Oh, I know that one. I do know that one. I think. Maybe not.
What is the name of the owner of the restaurant that Obi-Wan goes to discuss about the dart? Let's see. I think everyone's going to be now Googling. Googling. It's not Walt.
No, it's not me.
It's not Walt. What is the name of the owner? He has 4 arms. He kind of talks like Dax. Yes, downscale. I'm gonna go
downscale. Yes, that's exactly.
Dougie got the technical term, but he does call him Dax. So I'm going to give it to downscale. Okay, so downscale, you get a point, my friend. Well done. Right. What was the first line Mace Windu said to Count Dooku? What was the first line Mace Windu said to Count Dooku? This is maybe a tricky one.
I know it. Well, I think I know it.
It's like Jeopardy. Speaking of which, Jeopardy tonight.
Isn't it 3 words?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I think I got it then.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Give him a couple more seconds here.
It's riveting.
The downscale is not that one.
No, Joey's World's not that one.
Good job, downscale. I did. That's a tasty burger is also not the answer.
Say what again?
I
double dare you. What is it?
All right.
He literally holds up his lightsaber.
You're on TV. I can see.
All right. I guess that's it. All right, Dave, tell him.
The answer is this party's over. This party's over. Okay, so I'll think of another question while I do the next one. Okay. What did Dooku take to the Emperor at the end of the movie? What did he show to the Emperor at the end of the movie?
That's a good one too, Dan. Good one.
I need to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative.
Gwyneth Paltrow's head in a box.
Star plans. Yes, Dougie, the Death Star
Dougie.
plans. Well done. Well done. All right. 2 more questions. Next question. What is the name of the man in Tatooine that only has one leg that is related to Shmi Skywalker? What is the name of the man with only one leg who's related to Shmi Skywalker?
Good job, Joey's World, by the way. What's in the box?
What's in the box? What's in the box? Great movie.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to this one, Dan. That's a good one. Doesn't look like anybody else knows either.
The Dougie's like, damn. His uncle, the monkey's uncle.
It's technically his stepfather.
Yeah, technically it's Clegg. No, not Owen. Owen is the son. We're looking for the father, Uncle Skywalker. No. I'll put it in the Hangouts chat to see if I confirm that it's right. So if
don't ask me, I don't know.
this might ring a bell though. So look in the Hangouts chat.
Yeah,
see if I'm
Isn't
right.
that the last name?
Yeah, I think that's the last name.
I think okay. So
Because it's Uncle Owen.
oh, is it Clegg
Uncle
then?
Owen Lars.
Clegg Lars? That
Yeah,
does
could
ring a
be.
bell.
Yeah, I think that might be right.
Okay, so let's go with that.
Right, who got it
and
first?
who got Clegg? Dougie.
Yep, Dougie got it.
Dougie.
Yeah.
All right. One more question.
Great.
More question. Well done. Thank you, Dale Scale. Yes, Lars is the last name. Last question is. Let's have a think because I had to skip one. What? Is that Dave? Have you got a question?
No.
Okay, that
Me
helps
either.
a lot.
We can go with 4. That'll be
We'll go with 4.
I
Yeah,
didn't
we'll
know
go
I
4.
didn't know I needed to prepare.
No, you didn't. That's on me.
It was
I
a spontaneous.
didn't prepare
Right, we'll go with
What?
the 4. So we'll end with Dougie on 5 points, 1 Rodriguez on 2, Joey's World on 1, and Downscale on 1. Well done.
Nice.
You still have 8 more movies, so
Yeah.
feel free to come back and play again.
And they're going to get more positive. Trust me. They will.
they will.
Well, Dan, I want you to go ahead and plug your channel, please.
Oh, okay. Well, firstly, I just want to give a massive thank you to Dave for joining us again on these Star Wars Sundays. We have a great. We had a lot of fun. This is 3 weeks in a row.
It is, man. We've talked a lot.
We've talked a lot. We've talked a lot about Star Wars, and again, a big shout out to the Disfluencers podcast, hosted by Brandy and Dave, who hosted some guy called DizneyDan on there. It was a lot of fun. We did a really great show, and that was just it was just a lot of fun. As for me, you can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at DizneyDan. We are slowly trying to get monetization, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Just it's been a really fun time. We've had Disney Fiasco as well as Disney Food Fridays. So, guys, I really, really do appreciate it. And guys, like, if I did hurt your feelings about Attack of the Clones, I'm really, really sorry. I love you guys, really. But I just like to give my honest opinion. But thank you so much. I really, really do appreciate it. And thank you, Walt, for hosting this week.
Absolutely. And for us here at Mouse Talk, first off, Dave, Dan, as usual, guys, thank you for joining me. I hope you all had a good time with it. I know it wasn't the most positive review of a movie, but, we want to give our honest opinion of the movie. That's the whole point of these as we get closer and closer to episode 9. Us here at Mouse Talk, we're well over 1,200 subscribers now. We are monetized, as you saw earlier, and I appreciate. Thank you, Dan and Donna, for the super chats. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we go live. It's funny, we're becoming a live stream channel because I have a new partner channel. Dan, it's probably the first time you're hearing this. Steve's World has joined up as a partner channel with us.
Yay.
And Steve and I will be doing a sports night live stream starting next Saturday. We're not interfering with you, Dan, on Disney Fiasco. Don't worry about that. But we'll be doing a sports night live stream where we'll be talking breaking sports news, history, controversial sports topics, all kinds of great stuff. So be sure to check us out for that. Other than that, we do videos here and there as well out. But I just want to thank everybody for the support. And, you know, it's great to have everybody in here. We love the streams. They're fantastic. But other than that, I want to thank everybody in there that was in the stream. Dougie, Joey's World, Steve's World. Donna was in here. I think Rob was in here a little bit earlier as well. Stacy Rogers was in here. We had tons of people. Anybody? Am I forgetting anybody, guys?
Downscale. R. Jones.
Downscale, yes.
Downscale, yeah.
for
R.
sure.
Jones, Disney Life for Me.
R. John was in here. That's right. Disney Life for Me was in here. Deep Miguel were in here a little bit earlier as well.
We said Stacy, right?
Oh, Dougie, thank you for that. That was nice. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dougie. I appreciate that. Thank you for the super chat. But no, guys, we had a great time, and we're going to be, as you can hear Dan in the background, we're tearing up
the
Attack of the Clones.
Goodbye. That's the last one.
Revenge of the Sith in April. Not sure just when yet, but it'll be back on Dan's channel because we rotate channels.
Yep.
So it'll be back on Dan's channel in April, and as we get closer to finalizing a date, we'll let you know. And in August, we're hoping to do our Star Wars Sunday from
Galaxy's Edge. Yeah, hopefully from Galaxy's Edge.
Yep, if we're lucky, that's where we were hoping to do it. So be ready for that.
There will
Other
be
than that,
no
guys,
service.
Exactly. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. We definitely appreciate it. Thanks for hanging in there. Almost 2-hour stream. Probably about right. I think it's what we went last time, right?
Yeah, it was about an hour and we did over 2 hours last time. This is about an hour and 45.
Yeah,
so
this one was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
We knew where all three of us were going with this one. But thank you all very much for joining us.
Everybody.
We appreciate it. Everybody have a great week. We'll see everybody soon. Take care of yourselves and each other. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Later.
Bye.